The truth is, to get model skinny, you're really not eating that much. No, it doesn't mean that you have an ED or that you are particularly unhealthy, but as far as calories go, no, you're not eating a lot. That's just kind of how it works. But before I get into it, welcome back to the 1 Year 100 Pounds podcast. My name is Whitney Holcomb and I am author of the book 1 Year 100 Pounds. For those of you who are new here, I lost 100 pounds on my own when I was 14 years old, and I've kept it off for over 20 years. I then went on to become a model and really started to live out my dream life. And that is kind of what the book is about. It is about how I lost the weight, but as well as a tough love guide for how you can lose weight and also start creating the life of your dreams, because that's what it really was about for me ultimately. That being said, I was a model in the past when I was younger, and I not only was really skinny at one point, too skinny, because I thought that's how I had to be a model. So I do know how to get that skinny. I also lived with a bunch of models in a model apartment in New York City. And, I was around that kind of crowd a lot. So I know a lot of the tips and tricks. This is just from my own observation, as well as just observations from, famous models that, we hear info about from on their everyday lives. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, as far as like how to get model skinny. Because that is, someone actually in the comments was asking about that. Like, what are the tips and tricks to be model skinny? So I'm going to really just kind of go into the reality of that, because I feel like on the surface, even some of these like famous models will try to tell you, oh, I'm just, super healthy. I have a naturally like high metabolism, blah, blah, blah. And that's not entirely the truth. Again, I'm not saying that all these models have EDs or are super unhealthy, but look, I just know the real deal, okay? To get to a certain size and maintain it, like I said, you're not eating very much. There's certain things you kind of have to do. Like, I think Liv Schmidt is actually a perfect example of this. I know that a lot of you guys follow her. And I don't think she's a model, but she looks like one now. She's very thin. And, she, I guess, had her own weight loss. I don't think she was ever very big, but she was heavier. And she showed her, what I eat in a day to lose weight and how she eats to stay skinny. And of course, we all know the story. It got tons of backlash and she was called toxic for, EDs, blah, blah, blah. In reality, again, you look at it, she actually eats pretty healthy and is really good about portioning her stuff. She doesn't have a ton of restriction. Like, she does eat really healthy for the most part, but she does indulge, but she doesn't indulge very much. And what I mean is, like, portion sizes are very small. Okay. So calorie wise, she's eating what is around her maintenance, which I don't know what it is, 1,500, 1,800 calories. But no, it doesn't look like very much, because it isn't, at least not to like, a normal person, right? And again, the average American diet, I think, is like 3,000 calories, something crazy like that. That's why everyone's obese here. But yeah, so to a normal person, it looks like nothing. It looks like an ED. When actually, calorie wise, it's just kind of what she needs to maintain her weight. Again, she's very tiny. So the tinier you are, the less you have to eat to maintain that weight. But I think it's just very funny because she at least is honest about it. I feel like you have a lot of skinny women, even like some of the big, time supermodels that are super in shape, super skinny. They are always going to try to tell you, oh, but I eat pizza and no, it's a healthy, balanced lifestyle and I eat whatever I want. And while there is some truth in that, it's not the entire truth. And I feel like Liv Schmidt was just actually being truthful about it. Like, she was just showing you the real deal. So to get model skinny, do you have to starve yourself? Is it really an unhealthy lifestyle? Do you really have to be unhealthy to get that thin? Number one, I think it depends on I guess your idea of skinny, I think this really varies for everyone. And I think it depends on your idea of, okay, what model, right? Because there are like the very thin rail thin, 6 foot tall, like fashion models, and they're very androgynous looking, very, very, very slim. But then you have like the Victoria's Secret models, like the classic Victoria's Secret models, who I think look very healthy. They are very thin, of course, but they look very healthy. I don't think they look like sickly. So, I mean, yeah, number one, if your ideal is to look sickly or like the heroin chic kind of model of the 90s, I don't think that really is a great goal to go for. That is actually unachievable. Like those girls actually, did or do have problems. But if you're just talking about, I don't know, like a Victoria's Secret model, or maybe someone even slightly thinner, like I'm trying to think of an example. I feel like it's a current example now. I don't know, but if I find someone, I will put it in a picture and put it on screen. But I guess what I'm saying is the difference between like, okay, like just a skinny model who doesn't look like she works out, like she's just skinny, versus like a Victoria's Secret model where like they have a tiny bit of definition. Not much because they're still very skinny, but a tiny bit. So what does it take to achieve those body types? Well, they're both a little bit different because like I said, the Victoria's Secret models, they have to have some kind of curves. They have to work out a little bit differently versus like a fashion model. She's just very skinny and she doesn't have a lot of muscle tone. So number one, to be skinny and to stay skinny, like I said, like Liv Schmidt, showed us, yeah, you don't eat very much. This doesn't necessarily mean you're starving, but you're not eating very much. You're probably eating less than the average person. And I don't even mean like the ridiculous average person, which is like 3,000, right? 3,000 calories. I just mean like, you might be like just at your maintenance, like almost every single day, or just kind of like bordering. And again, this is just coming from my own experience, both of me being that skinny and with my own observations from living with models and being in the industry for a little bit. I did a video on the myth of the naturally skinny person. And basically there is no real naturally skinny person, meaning there is no one who can just eat whatever they want and however much amount that they want and not gain weight. That's just not how it works. Like they cannot stay rail thin if they are eating 3,000 calories per day. It just doesn't work that way. Not unless they're like running a marathon every day. Okay. I know so many people want to fight me in the comments and, oh no, but my boyfriend or my sister, she eats like this all the time. And you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I just guarantee you, unless, your sister or your friend or whatever is a freak of nature, they are not eating 3,000, 4,000 calories every single day and staying rail thin. That's just not how it works. What I have seen, both just with models and just people I know that are, naturally skinny, is the only natural part about it is that they don't have the same drive for food like you and I do, right? Like someone who was obese, they're not as addicted to food. So yes, they do eat whatever they want, but it's not as much as you or I would, because again, they can have a few French fries and then be like, oh, I'm full, and then stop. Like their hunger levels are just totally different, okay? So that's the natural part about it. Again, just from my own observation. The other thing too is a lot of times they tend to go for healthier foods anyway. That is something I've kind of noticed too. Like it's funny, Candice Swanepoel, I was reading something because I was trying to look up her like diet and workout, and there was an interview and she said something like, I just have a really high metabolism. And then she goes, yeah, I'm the kind of girl that I'll order a salad, but have French fries on the side. And like hearing that, I'm like, okay, no, that's not a fast metabolism. That's called, you basically eat pretty healthy, low calorie, and then you have a few French fries on the side. That's just called being healthy, normal, okay? So I think that's the awesome way to do it, the best way to do it, because you can still kind of enjoy your treats and be healthy at the same time. But for many of us, like me, I can't just stop at like a few French fries, okay? I want all of them. So that is like the difference between like these naturally skinny people and us. And oftentimes that is what I have seen with a lot of, again, these naturally skinny models. Is it's not that all of them had EDs like everyone wants to believe. It's just they naturally just don't eat a lot. And it's not like they even do it intentionally. Sometimes they do, which we'll get into in a minute. It's not that they even do it intentionally. It's just that is just their natural hunger signals. And so sometimes it's not even that like, oh, a skinny person tells you, oh, they eat whatever they want. I don't think that they're like lying necessarily. It's just for them, their idea of what a lot of food is different than our idea of a lot of food, So like to them, it's like, oh yeah, I eat pizza every day, but they have like one slice of pizza, okay? And then maybe the rest of the day, they'll have like a Diet Coke and like an apple. You know what I mean? So it's like their idea of eating whatever they want, eating however much they want is so different from like my idea of eating a lot of pizza, which would be the whole pizza. Another thing they do too is they're very sporadic in their eating. And I remember definitely this in the model apartment. Like, I mean, pretty much no one was eating throughout the day. No one ate.
And the amount, like when I was in the modeling industry, and we would be very strictly briefed. If someone asks you, what you ate for breakfast. None of us ate breakfast. We're not going to eat breakfast and then go take photos. We're not going to. But you had to say you had a healthy breakfast. And if someone says, you know, what do you eat? You can't say, I eat a very strict diet. You say, oh no, I love pizza. I definitely have pizza every week. Like it was all crap.
And whether this was intentional or not, I think a lot of it was just, you know, again, they were all young and didn't have a lot of money. And a lot of them, you know, would just wait until, like, we'd go out to like dinners every night, and the dinners were free. So they would just wait to eat until then. So they were eating like once a day, basically, right? And if they were eating anything else, it might be like little snacks here and there. But they just really were not eating, and they were not thinking about food most of the time. Some of this is unintentional, some maybe intentional. But yeah, I mean, that's just the reality. So, you know, just summarize. Number one, they're just not eating a lot of food. When they do eat, they may eat whatever they want, but again, it's in smaller portions. And they're also doing like a lot of like intermittent fasting, basically, probably without even realizing it, is they just don't eat pretty much during the day, except for maybe once or twice. Because again, to them, like, their drive is just different. You know, they don't constantly think about food. With someone like me, right, who has that, you know, the obesity genetic, I guess, which is what I think, you know, when people say, oh, it's in my genetics. No, it's not your genetics just to be fat, but it could be in your genetics that you have that like addiction mindset, especially when it comes to food, which is why I can't eat certain things without going overboard, right? So anyway, different story. So, okay. So number one, I would say that is just what most models are. Most models are like naturally skinny. And again, I just explained what I mean by naturally skinny. Like most of them, yeah, they don't really have to work too hard at it because that's just how they are naturally, like as far as eating. A lot of them don't really do a ton of working out. It's just beyond like, you know, doing their normal stuff, like walking here and there. Again, just from like my observation. But then there is definitely the reality that, hey, even models got to lose weight sometimes, depending on, you know, what they're going for, right? If it's the Victoria's Secret fashion show, or if it's another fashion show or a shoot, then they have to lose weight, and sometimes they have to do it really quickly. And the reality is here that this is where some girls can develop EDs and go down a bad route. I mean, not always. Again, I think there's a difference between like, okay, trying to lose a couple pounds here and going on like a crash diet just for this shoot and then going back to, you know, normal eating versus like, yeah, I mean, for sure. Some girls can definitely go down the bad route, which I would never suggest doing. I myself went through a period of just getting too skinny. I mean, you know, again, I think too, when you have that kind of issue, it is not just about your weight. There is also something else going on, which was in my case. But yeah, I mean, like I was 105 at my thinnest, and that was really tiny for me. And, you know, didn't look good, didn't feel good. But that was a result of just, you know, like severe caloric restriction, which is, I mean, again, it's not healthy. It's not good. It's not even worth it because, like I said, you don't look good. You don't feel good. But I just thought like, okay, that's what I had to do to be, you know, to be a model and to have people like me. It was a bad route. But again, as far as like girls who are trying to get skinny for like a shoot or something, I mean, it should come as no surprise. Yeah, it comes down to calorie deficit. I mean, sometimes they will fast and just not really eat anything, but drink water or something, or water or coffee. But yeah, I mean, that's just what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, they just don't eat very much. Again, but basically the gist of this video is they don't eat. I don't know what else to say, really. But, you know, also keep in mind, like, I'm sure for, again, even for like the Victoria's Secret models, they do like incredible things to get in shape for that show. I think a lot of times this too, like going to that extreme, right? Like, I don't think they do that all season. I guess it's kind of like you think of like fitness competitors, like they do extreme things leading up to their event, but then off season, you know, they don't stay that same leanness. So yeah, it depends on what the job is, why they're trying to get to a certain weight. Obviously they have to stay skinny, you know, year round. But when I was just talking about doing like, okay, like crash diets or whatever to get in shape for a shoot real soon, I'm not saying that they do that all the time unless they have a problem. But as far as like a normal, like healthy model, I would say the key takeaways from my observations just in personal life, from me, myself, is intermittent fasting, whether intentional or not, portion sizes, definitely sticking to small portion sizes and not overeating, like with anything. And also eating healthy-ish for the most part. Like they naturally do have natural tendency to want to eat lower calorie foods. As far as exercise, again, just from my observation, some of the models I knew, they were not like fitness pros. I mean, they might, walk, they might do some Pilates, different things. I think mostly it came down to, their diet. Again, it depends on what kind of model though, right? Because Victoria's Secret models, those girls do work out a lot and they do all kinds of things. And I do think that the new era kind of model, which I would say is like the Victoria's Secret, like the Candace Swanepoel, Adriana Lima, I don't think that they starve themselves, like not intentionally. I think that we are now in a time where people are just trying to be healthy versus just skinny. I don't think we want to do the heroin chic thing. I don't know why you would, because it's not really all that healthy. I mean, I did know some models like that. And I mean, their diet was basically vodka, cigarettes, and like potato chips here and there. So again, it's not sustainable and I don't even think it looks good. But yeah, that if you want to know how they get that skinny, that's how. It's vodka and cigarettes and some potato chips. Again, don't take this as like a sign to go do that though. I'm telling you, it won't last long, okay? But I do think, again, back to the Victoria's Secret models, yeah, they lead a pretty healthy life. They, especially now because they're famous, they can have all the organic foods and the salads. They're not eating a lot of junk food all the time. I can tell you that right now. They're probably not drinking a lot. And then when they do gain a few pounds or they gotta, get in shape for something, then they go pretty extreme. I don't necessarily mean, they're stop eating altogether, have ED tendencies, but I mean, they're extreme in that, like, they know how to cut their calories, they know what kind of workouts they gotta do. That's really what it is. Some of it is very unintentional. But then when they are intentional, it's a little more extreme. Okay, so what does that mean for you if you want to be model skinny? Well, number one, I think, you need to decide, okay, like what kind of model skinny are you aspiring to? Because again, if you are looking for like the heroin chic girl, like the super skinny, like rail thin runway models, I mean, like I said, vodka and cigarettes. But why would you want to do that? It's not sustainable. I don't think that. I personally it's not my aesthetic, right? That's just what I think. I understand wanting to be skinny. I understand, if you're thinking, okay, ballerina skinny, like, you don't want the muscle tone. I get that. Like if you just want to be skinny, like, I think like Liv Schmidt's like an example. I think she's just very thin. I think she does like Pilates. I don't think she's got a lot of muscle tone. So I understand if that's like your body type. Well, yeah, just kind of follow what she does then. She basically tells you have to be very intentional about how you're eating, at least until it becomes more of a habit for you. This is just the reality. Yeah, especially if you are someone who are not naturally thin, then it is going to have to be more intentional for you. You have to watch what you eat. You have to eat healthy most of the time, focus on high volume but low calorie foods. So things like broccoli and vegetables and fruits, because they fill you up, but they are naturally lower in calories. As far as workouts go, again, walking is great. From what I, again, have observed, that is mostly what they did, walking or very low impact exercise. I'm not saying don't do weights. Like I like doing weights and other like crazy stuff, but just going from what I've observed, you listening to what Victoria's Secret models themselves do. They do all kinds of workouts, I think, but a lot of cardio, probably a lot of Pilates, a lot of body weight stuff. And they're not doing a lot of drinking. They're not doing a lot of partying, at least not the Victoria's Secret models. Again, there are the other kind of model where it's just, like I said, the vodka and cigarettes, but we don't want that. I'm telling you don't want that. But yeah, anyway, I hope that kind of sheds a little bit of light on what it takes to get model skinny. But I don't think really any of it is that surprising, is it? I think everyone is like looking for like, oh, they must drink a certain drink or they must do something very specific. Honestly, it's always going to come down to calorie deficit. Like most people are not freaks of nature. There's a reason they're skinny. It's not because super high metabolism. Usually it's because they're just not eating as much. And I think that, again, for you, if that is your goal, you need to figure out like what is even really achievable for you. We all have different body types. So if you are 5'2" in a pear shape or apple shape, I mean, it's going to be very hard for you to look like Giselle, who's like 6 feet and like a total gazelle, right? She's got no body fat on her. She just carries it so different. So you need to be realistic about what your body type is and why you want to get down to that. Again, I understand wanting to be skinny for sure. But I think that, again, in my opinion, I my idea of skinny might be different than yours. I think you should find something that is both sustainable and is like your hottest, healthiest weight. And you might have to find your own way to do that. Again, I love working out. I'm trying to build muscle. So for me, that's my ideal of being like my healthiest, hottest weight. I do like being slim, maybe want to get a little bit slimmer. So yeah, I have to watch my diet. But yeah, you have to figure out what is even worth it, because it's true. Like sometimes being a calorie deficit or, eating like Liv Schmidt, that might work really well for her, but it might be a lot harder for you. Meaning like maybe I don't know, maybe it's harder for you to be at a lower weight than it is for her to be at a lower weight, because we all are a little bit different. So you have to find out if it's even worth it. If you're miserable, if you're eating like that and you're miserable, well, then it's probably just not worth it. Okay. Maybe set your sights or your goal on something more realistic for you and your body type. Again, I think there are so many different body types out there that are all amazing. So find what works for you. That is what I would suggest. Don't think you need to look like one specific body type to be beautiful. That's just not true. But if getting skinnier is your goal, then also understand it takes work, and it's going to be a lot different lifestyle than maybe what you are doing right now. But that's the truth. I wish I could say, oh, it's just, or switch out white rice for brown rice and do some yoga every now and then. No, that's not what it is. It's not just listening to your body. At least not if you are like me and, have the obesity gene, I guess. If you're naturally skinny, it might just be listening to your body. I don't know. But, if you are trying to get thinner right now and you are confused, because I feel like that has been like the propaganda like for past 10 years or so maybe, is that no, it's all about eating healthy and just exercising because you want to. And to get that thin, if you're not already naturally thin, it takes work. It's very intentional. Anyhow, guys, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and follow my channel or my podcast for more content like this. And I will see you guys next time.